The stars above Varel Station blinked like frozen sparks in the night sky. Thousands of ships hovered around the outer edge, waiting for their turn to dock. Varel wasn't just a trading post, it was the black market capital of the quadrant. Anything and everything was sold here: machines, weapons, old artifacts, and sometimes life itself. Rick stepped out of his shuttle and looked around. He wore a long brown jacket and a plain cap that hid his eyes. To most people, he looked like a harmless traveler. In truth, Rick had seen war, lost friends, and trusted no one. He came here looking for a rare fuel crystal. He didn't expect to find her. The main marketplace buzzed with alien voices. Creatures of every size and shape filled the space. Rick moved through the crowd, ignoring the shouting merchants and glowing signs. He wasn't interested in flashy gadgets. He wanted to find the underground traders, the ones who sold things that were never meant to be sold. A tall creature with silver skin and 4 arms watched him from a dark corner. Rick nodded, showing a coin between his fingers. The alien blinked slowly and turned, walking toward a door, behind a rusted vendor stall. Rick followed. The hallway behind the door was narrow and cold. The lights flickered above. A heavy door stood at the end. The silver-skinned alien pressed a code into the panel and the door hissed open. Inside was a hidden auction room. Dozens of wealthy aliens sat in a circle, watching a large glass chamber in the middle. Inside the glass was a girl, pale blue, skin, soft features, long silver hair, and small elf-like ears. She looked weak. Her hands were tied. Her eyes glowed gently, even in fear. Rick stopped breathing for a second. "What is she?" someone whispered beside him. "She's the last of her kind," another said. "They called them the Solari. Their bodies hold living energy. You boil them, and you absorb their strength. It's like drinking pure light." Rick clenched his jaw. The auctioneer raised a hand. "This is not just a specimen, this is power. This is wealth. Whoever wins her wins a piece of the stars." Bidding started. Rick didn't move. He wasn't here for this. He wasn't rich. He wasn't powerful. But when he looked at her again, her eyes were on him. She stared directly at him, past the glass, past the crowd. And in his mind, he heard her. "Please, help me." It wasn't loud. It wasn't clear. But it was real. She had spoken to him, without words. Rick stepped back into the shadows, his heart pounding. "Are you okay, sir?" the silver-skinned guide asked. Rick forced a nod. "I need air." He left the room quickly and found an empty hallway nearby. He leaned against the wall, trying to think. He wasn't a hero. He didn't plan to start a war. But he couldn't ignore that voice. He couldn't forget those eyes. "Think," he whispered to himself. He pulled out a small scanner from his pocket. The display showed building maps and security feeds. He hacked into the system using an old code from his mercenary days. The girl was being kept in a cage below the auction room, guarded but not impossible to reach. There was a vent system, tight but usable. He made his decision. It took Rick 20 minutes to crawl through the vents and reach the chamber beneath. The cage was lit with dim blue light. The girl was curled up in the corner, chained, barely awake. Rick dropped down silently. When she saw him, her eyes widened. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said quietly. Her voice echoed in his head again. "You came." Rick pulled out a small tool and began to cut the lock. "We have no time. The next buyer might want to start boiling you right away." Her breath shook. "Why are you helping me?" Rick paused. "Because no one else will." The lock clicked open. He reached out his hand. She hesitated, then touched it. Her skin was warm, even through his gloves. A strange tingle shot up his arm, like touching sunlight. He carried her gently and moved back into the vent. She was light, barely more than skin and bones. As they crawled, she spoke again in his mind. "They killed my people. For our light. We were not weapons. We were meant to heal." Rick didn't answer. He just kept moving. Outside the station, in a dark alley near his ship, Rick laid her down on a blanket and checked her pulse. It was steady, but weak. "I'll get you somewhere safe," he said. "Just hold on." The girl looked up at him. Her glowing eyes dimmed slightly. "Thank you, human. You gave me something I thought I had lost." "What's that?" Rick asked. "Hope." Above them, alarms started ringing. The station knew she was gone. Rick picked her up again and ran toward his ship. He didn't know what would come next, but he knew this. He wasn't leaving her behind. Rick's boots pounded across the metal floor of the docking bay. Behind him, the warning sirens echoed through the station. Red lights flashed above, and distant announcements called for guards to search all exits. He held Elia tightly in his arms. She was light as a feather, but her skin was warmer now, like the sun shining through a window. She was awake, but still weak. Her head rested against Rick's shoulder as he moved fast toward his ship, the Strider. "Hold on," he said, softly. "We're almost there." The Strider wasn't a big ship. It was old, dented, and had more patches than paint. But it was fast. It was quiet. And right now, it was their only way out. Rick slammed his hand on the access panel, and the door slid open. He stepped inside, laid Elia gently on the padded bench near the wall, and ran to the controls. "All systems green," the ship's AI voice reported. "Unauthorized docking activity detected on station. Recommend immediate departure." "Yeah, I noticed," Rick muttered, flipping switches. He looked back at Elia. Her eyes were barely open. She tried to smile but couldn't hold it. "Just stay awake," Rick told her. "We'll be out soon." Engines roared to life. The docking clamps released with a hiss, and the Strider shot out into open space, vanishing into the dark void, before the guards even reached the bay. An hour later, Rick set the ship on autopilot and returned to Elia. He brought a small container of water and held it to her lips. She sipped slowly, her glowing eyes watching him. "Thank you," she said, not in his mind this time, but with a real voice. It was soft, almost musical. Rick nodded. "You can speak?" Elia smiled weakly. "Not for long. Energy must flow for voice. But you gave me time." "Time for what?" She looked at her hands. "To live." Rick sat down across from her. "You said you're the last of your kind." "The Solari?" She nodded. "We were light bearers, healers. Our energy could grow forests, cure wounds, bring peace, but others wanted to take it." "By boiling you?" Rick asked, disgusted. "Yes. The body holds the sun seed. When burned, it releases energy that others can use. But we were never meant to be used. We were meant to share." Rick looked away for a moment, angry. "How did you end up here?" he asked. "Captured during a false peace talk," Elia said. "They killed my sister in front of me. I was sold as a prize to the highest bidder." Rick's fist clenched. He stood up and started pacing the room. "You don't deserve that. No one does." She watched him with gentle eyes. "Why did you help me?" Rick stopped and looked at her. "Because you begged. And because I couldn't forget your eyes. I saw someone asking for help, not a tool, not a thing, a life. That was enough." She smiled faintly. "You are not like the others." Rick sighed and walked over to the ship's med kit. "You need rest and food. You're safe now." But even as he said that, he knew it wasn't true. Rick set a course for an old contact he once knew, Goro, a trader who owed him a favor. Goro operated from a quiet moon station in the Black Zone, far from the eyes of the major alien councils. "We'll be there in 6 hours," Rick said. "Goro's place isn't much, but he won't turn us in." Elia nodded slowly and closed, her eyes again. Rick returned to the cockpit and stared at the stars ahead, but behind them trouble was coming. Meanwhile, on Vorel Station, the auction house burned with shame and fury. "She was stolen," a council member roared. "A human? A human stole our prize?" "Yes," the guard confirmed. "Rick Marin, former mercenary, trained, dangerous, disappeared with the Solari girl before we could respond." The alien council leader slammed a fist on the table. Put a bounty on him. 10,000 units. Alive or dead. And double for the girl. No one escapes us. Back on the Strider, Rick heard the bounty alert come through the ship's scanner system. He read the message. Wanted human male, Rick Marin, for kidnapping a Class 1 energy being. High value, dangerous, destroy on sight. Rick leaned, back in the chair, rubbing his eyes. This just got worse. He returned to Ilya. She was awake again, looking stronger. They're hunting us, he said. I know, she replied calmly. I can feel them. Rick raised an eyebrow. You can feel them, she nodded. Their desire, their greed, it's like a fire. I sense it across the stars. Rick sat down beside her. Then we need to stay ahead of that fire. When we reach Goro, we'll find a way to keep you safe. Elia looked at him. What if I stay with you? Rick blinked. Me? You saw me as a person, not a prize. My energy reacts to that. It becomes stronger, clearer. Rick didn't know what to say. Elia reached out and touched his hand. A small spark passed between them. Maybe we are meant to walk this path together. Rick gave a small nod. Then let's walk it. Outside, space stretched endless and quiet. But Rick knew the quiet wouldn't last. They had made a choice. One that would echo across the galaxy. And the next chapter of their escape was only beginning. The Strider arrived at Goro's moon station just before sunrise. The station floated quietly above the surface of a dusty, forgotten world. It looked small and harmless from the outside, but Rick knew better. Goro's place was full of secrets, hidden tech, and people who didn't ask questions. Rick helped Elia out of the ship. She was stronger now. She could walk on her own, though still a bit slow. Her skin still gave off a soft warmth, like standing near a campfire. Her silver hair moved gently in the low-gravity wind, and her glowing eyes scanned the dusty ground. Stay close, Rick said. They walked toward the steel doors of the station. As they approached, a large figure stepped out, tall, thick arms and covered in armor made of bones and wires. Rick Marin, the voice growled. Back from the dead? Goro, Rick replied. Still wearing your war trophies? The armored man chuckled and removed his helmet. His face was wrinkled and one eye was replaced with a red lens. You look older. So do you, Rick said. But I'm not here to chat, I need help. Goro looked past Rick at Ilya. His smile faded. You brought her. Rick nodded. She's in danger. I need somewhere to hide her. Just for a short time. Goro looked at her again. I know what she is. Then you know why I'm asking. Goro paused for a long moment. Then he stepped aside and opened the door. Come in. Inside, the station was dark and filled with strange machines. Old droids worked quietly in corners and long wires hung from the ceilings. It smelled like oil and dust. Rick led Elia to a quiet room at the back where she could rest. You'll be safe here, he said. Elia nodded. Thank you. Rick returned to the control room where Goro was watching security screens. She's not just a girl, Rick, Goro said quietly. She's fire in a glass bottle. You know what people would do to get her. I already saw what they tried, Rick replied. They wanted to boil her, use her like fuel. Then you know what she's worth. Rick frowned. She's not for sale. Goro turned slowly. I wasn't talking about money, I was talking about war. That girl could be the key to something big. You sure you want to carry that weight? Rick didn't answer. He stared at the screen showing Elia sitting calmly, her silver hair glowing in the dim light. I didn't plan this, Rick finally said. But I won't abandon her. Goro nodded. You're still the same, always saving someone. But Goro wasn't telling the full truth. Later that night, while Rick and Ilya slept, Goro sent a message using an old encrypted channel. I have the Solari girl. Come quick. I want the bounty, and then some. Morning came with a strange silence. Rick woke up to find the room quiet. Elia was sitting beside him, eyes closed, her hands resting on her lap. I feel something's wrong, she said suddenly. Rick stood up. What do you mean? Someone is watching us. Someone nearby. Rick quickly checked his gear and stepped outside. The hall was empty, but too quiet. He walked to the control room, but Goro wasn't there. Suddenly, red lights flashed and the alarm screamed through the station. A voice shouted from the hallway, "Rick Marin, surrender now!" Rick ran back to Ilya. She stood up quickly, her eyes glowing brighter. "They're here for me," she said. Rick pulled out his small blaster and looked around. "Goro sold us out." Ilya placed a hand on his arm. "Let me try something." Rick watched as she stepped forward and closed her eyes. A golden light began to spread from her body, faint at first, then brighter. Outside the room, 2 guards froze, their weapons shaking. "What's happening?" one said. Ilya opened her eyes. "They want to take me. I won't go." A wave of energy shot forward, not a blast, but like a strong wind. The guards dropped their weapons and fell back, stunned and confused. Rick pulled Ilya close. "We have to go now." They ran through the back tunnels of the station. Rick knew a hidden exit used long ago for smuggling, but behind them more guards followed. At the end of the tunnel, they reached an old shuttle bay. Rick pulled open the doors and threw supplies inside. He turned to see Goro standing there holding a rifle. "Don't make this harder, Rick," Goro said. "Give her to me and walk away." Rick raised his blaster. "You betrayed me." Goro's eye lens glowed red. "You should have known better. This is business." Before Goro could fire, Ilya stepped between them. Her body glowed, like a soft flame. "You don't understand what I am," she said. "I don't care," Goro replied. "You're a battery, nothing more." Ilya's eyes filled with light. Suddenly a pulse of energy burst from her body. It struck the walls, the ceiling, and the floor. The lights exploded. Machines sparked and shut down. Goro's rifle flew. From his hands, he collapsed to the floor, groaning. Rick stared in shock. "What did you do?" "I didn't hurt him," Ilya said softly. "But I won't let him hurt us." Rick helped her into the shuttle, and they took off moments later. As the ship rose above the moon station, Rick looked back at the dark building behind them. "He was a friend once," Rick said quietly. Ilya touched his hand. "I'm sorry." Rick shook his head. "You didn't do anything wrong." "But people around me always get hurt," she whispered. Rick looked at her and said firmly, "We'll find a place. One where no one can touch you. I promise." She smiled, but there was sadness in her eyes. As the shuttle flew into space, Rick knew the fight wasn't over. The galaxy now knew they were alive and together, and some would stop at nothing to get her back. Rick flew the small shuttle through an asteroid field, far away from the main space lanes. The stars outside looked calm, but he knew danger could come from any direction. Ilya sat beside him, quiet and thoughtful. Her skin still gave off that gentle warmth. Her energy had saved them again, but now she was tired. "How are you feeling?" Rick asked, keeping one hand on the controls. "I'm okay," Ilya answered softly. "Just a little empty." Rick nodded. "We'll find somewhere safe, somewhere quiet." "I don't want to keep running," she said. "I want to stand, to live freely." Rick didn't say anything for a moment. He understood her pain. He had run from many things in his life, wars, enemies, even memories. But now with Ilya he felt like he had something to stand for again. He opened a hidden star map. "There's a colony, Earth-based, hidden. They don't answer to the alien councils. It's called Haven Reach." "Do they accept outsiders?" Ilya asked. "They accept humans, and if you're with me, they'll listen." Ilya smiled faintly. "Then take me there." It took them nearly a day to reach the Haven Reach system. As they approached the planet, Rick sent a coded message. A few moments later, a voice replied, "This is Haven Reach. Identify yourself." "This is Rick Marin," he said. "I need safe landing. I'm bringing someone who needs protection." There was a long pause. Then the voice returned. "You're cleared for landing. Docking pad 12, but you better explain fast, Rick. Haven Reach was a small human colony built into the side of a mountain. Farms stretched across the valleys. Wind turbines spun slowly. The place looked peaceful, but Rick knew the people here were survivors. Tough, independent. As the shuttle touched down, a group of armed colonists stood waiting. Their leader was a woman named Nora, a strong, sharp-eyed woman who had once fought alongside Rick in the Outer Wars. She crossed her arms when she saw him. "You've got a bad habit of showing up with trouble." Rick stepped down and motioned to Elia. "This is Elia. She's not trouble. She's hunted." Nora looked at the alien girl, her glowing eyes, her pale skin. "Is that what I think it is?" "She's Solari," Rick said. "The last one," the colonists murmured among themselves. "I'm not asking you to fight for us," Rick said. "Just shelter. A little time." Nora looked at Elia again. "Can she control her energy?" "Yes," Rick said quickly, "and she doesn't want to hurt anyone." Elia stepped forward. "I only want peace, please." Nora studied her face, then slowly nodded. "All right. But any trouble, and you're both out." They were given a small house at the edge of the colony. It was quiet, with a view of the mountains. Elia walked through the room slowly, touching the wooden walls and breathing in the air. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "You can rest now," Rick said. "No one will find you here." But they both knew that wasn't true. The days passed quietly. Elia helped in the colony, watering plants, healing small wounds with her energy. The children liked her, and even some of the adults began to trust. Rick trained with the local guards, helped fix machines, and stayed alert. He felt something new here. Peace, maybe even hope. But deep down, he knew the calm couldn't last. One night, while Rick sat near the fire outside the house, Elia joined him. She looked up at the stars. "They shine so far away," she said. "But some of them are gone. We still see their light, but they're already dead." Rick looked at her. "You're thinking of your people?" She nodded. "I was once part of something great. Now I'm alone." "You're not alone," Rick said. "You're with me." She turned to him, surprised. "Why do you care so much?" Rick took a deep breath. "I've lost too many people. I don't want to lose you too." For a moment, they just sat in silence, the fire crackling softly. Then, Elia whispered, "You make my light brighter. I don't know why, but around you, I feel alive." Rick smiled. Maybe that's what humans do. But peace was a short dream. 3 days later, the sky above Haven Reach turned red. A massive alien warship appeared from hyperspace, dark and sharp like a blade. The colony's early warning system screamed. Nora ran to the tower and looked. Through her scope, "It's them," she said. "The bounty hunters. They found you." Rick stood beside her. "How?" "They probably tracked your shuttle. Even old ships leave trails." Rick turned and ran to Elia. "They're here," he said. "I can feel it," she replied, already standing. "You have to run." "No," Elia said. "I won't run anymore." Rick stared at her. "Elia, you said we'd stand. So let's stand." The colony prepared for battle. Farmers picked up rifles. Engineers powered up defense turrets. Children were hidden. Underground. Rick took his old armor from storage and suited up. Elia walked to the center of the village. Her body glowed faintly, but this time it wasn't just warmth. It was strength. "They won't take me again," she said. Nora looked at Rick. "She's going to fight?" "She's not a weapon," Rick said. "But she will defend us." The warship sent down machines, black spider-like walkers with sharp legs and energy cannons. They landed in the fields and started moving toward the colony. Rick stood with the front line. The machines fired first, but then Elia stepped forward. She raised her hand, and her body exploded in golden light. A wave of energy rushed across the field, knocking the machines back. Their systems sparked. Some shut down completely. The colonists stared in awe. Rick raised his rifle. "Let's finish this," Humans and alien tech clashed under the burning sky. But this time the humans were not alone. Elia moved like a star in motion, her light guiding them, shielding them. One by one, the machines fell. The warship in the sky began to retreat. After the battle, the colony was damaged but still standing. No lives were lost. Nora looked at Elia with new respect. "You saved us." Elia shook her head. "We saved each other." Rick smiled and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You showed them what a human and a Solari can do together." Elia looked at him. "Maybe now? I can be more than a survivor. Maybe I can be a protector." Rick nodded. "With you by our side, the galaxy might finally understand the power of light and heart." Days after the battle, the colony of Haven Reach stood strong. The fields were being replanted, machines repaired, and the people moved with quiet pride. They had survived an attack from a powerful alien force, and all because they had stood together. At the center of it all was Elia. She now walked with confidence, her soft blue skin glowing more than ever before. Her presence brought calm to the people. Some greeted her with smiles. Children followed her as if she were a star come to life. Rick watched her from the distance, standing near a broken wall he was helping fix. "She's become part of us," Nora said as she came beside him. Rick nodded. "She's more than that, now. She's a symbol." Nora raised an eyebrow. "Of what?" "That hope still matters," Rick said. "That light can still win." Nora smiled faintly. "You've changed, Rick. Maybe I've just remembered who I used to be." Later that evening, Rick and Elia sat together under the stars. The air was cool. The fire near them crackled gently. Elia looked up. "Do you think they'll come back?" Rick sighed. "The ones we fought? Probably. Greed doesn't give up easily, but now, we're not alone. And we're not weak." "I'm not afraid anymore," Elia said. "Not like before." Rick turned to her. "You were brave from the start." She shook her head. "No, I was only trying to survive, but now I want to live. I want to choose." Rick looked into her glowing eyes. "What will you choose?" "You," she said softly. "This place, these people, a new beginning." Rick was quiet for a moment, touched by her words. He reached for her hand. "You're not a prisoner anymore, Elia." "I know," she said, smiling. "Because of you." But peace never stayed long in the galaxy. Far away, in the heart of the Alien Council, news of their defeat at Haven Reach caused anger and fear. "They destroyed our hunters," one alien leader shouted. "The Solari girl has grown powerful." "Worse," another added. "She's bonding with humans. Their spirits connect. If that continues, her energy could evolve, multiply." "We must stop it now," the leader said, "before the girl becomes something even we cannot control." So they made a plan. This time they wouldn't just send machines or bounty hunters, they would come themselves. Rick woke to the sound of alarms. Again. Nora's voice came through the comm system. "Rick, we have incoming. It's not a warship, it's a council cruiser. Direct landing, no warning." Rick jumped from his bed and ran outside. Above the colony, a sleek silver ship hovered, humming with quiet power. It landed in the center field, flattening the crops with its force. The council had arrived. The ship opened, and a group of tall, cold-looking aliens stepped out. Their robes were dark. Their eyes were emotionless. Rick stood in front of them with Elia beside him. The lead alien spoke. "Return the Solari girl. She does not belong here." Rick stepped forward. "She's free. She belongs where she chooses to be." The alien narrowed his eyes. "You're a simple human. This is beyond your place." Elia raised her voice. "He is not simple. He is strong, and he gave me something none of you ever did." The alien looked at her. "We gave your kind power, purpose. You gave us pain," Elia said. "You turned our gift into a curse." The council leader raised his hand. A weapon appeared from his sleeve, silent, deadly. This is your last chance. Rick moved between Elia and the weapon. Then you'll have to go through me. There was a pause. Then, without a word, the council leader fired. But something happened no one expected. Elia screamed, not in fear, but in power. Her body lit up like a sun. The energy around her exploded in a wave of golden light that stopped the weapon in midair. It melted before it reached Rick. The council members staggered backward. Elia stepped forward. Her voice echoed, not just in the air, but in the minds of all who listened. I am not a weapon. I am not a tool. I am life. And I have chosen my place. And she turned to Rick. I choose him. The council tried to raise their weapons again, but the colonists had arrived too. Nora stood with her people, rifles aimed, eyes burning. You'll leave now, Nora said, or this ends badly. For you. The council leader looked at the humans, at the girl glowing with pure energy, and finally stepped back. This is not over. But it's over for today, Rick said. The aliens returned to their ship and left without another word. As the ship vanished into the sky, the colony cheered. Elia collapsed into Rick's arms, tired but smiling. You protected me again, she whispered. No, Rick said. This time we protected each other. Weeks passed. Elia's light became gentler. She began to teach the children how to grow plants faster, how to heal wounds with calm thoughts. She and Rick planted a new tree together near their home. Its leaves shimmered with golden dust. The tree was named Hope's Flame. It became a symbol of the new beginning. For the first time, the colony was not just surviving, it was thriving. And far across the stars, others began to hear the story of a human who chose kindness over fear, of an alien girl who refused to give up, of light that could never be stolen again. Final scene. One night, Rick and Elia stood on a hill looking over the glowing fields. What now? She asked. Rick smiled. We keep building. We keep fighting for peace. And maybe we show the galaxy what a human and a Solari can do together. Elia leaned against him. Her energy wrapped around them both like soft wind, and together they faced the stars, not as prisoner and rescuer, but as partners, as light and spark, as the beginning of something the galaxy had never seen before.